of different issues. For the opportunity to see Baku, the last time I was here was 7 years ago, and it's changed so much, and I'm truly, truly impressed. And for the opportunity to so highlight Ukraine. It's been an honor to be able to present to so many influential people in the world the situation in our country today. If you had told me 17 months ago that I would be here speaking before you on women's issues, but women's issues in the context of revolution, war, in the context of internally displaced peoples, in the context of the destruction of the political, economic, social, and cultural infrastructure of our country, I wouldn't have believed you. And indeed, if you had told me that 17 months ago, I would also be talking about a new generation of activists, new political leaders in our country, new elections, volunteers, a new civic society, I would not have believed you. It's all been new. 17 months ago, we expected the then president to sign an agreement that we would go into Europe, but for us it was not even a choice of Europe and Russia. It was a choice of individual freedom. It was a choice of democracy. And so when we did not get that, we had to rise up. As a result, we've had the Maidan that Ruslana described so well, which was our revolution. We had the invasion of Crimea. We had new elections. We had a war. We have now the issue of internally had in our country. And in fact, Ukraine is facing an aggressive violation of our territorial integrity, a profound threat to the national and cultural identity of our country, and to the purposeful political and economic destabilization of our country. But what I want to highlight here on this panel is that throughout these 17 months, women have been in the forefront of change in Ukraine. In the Maidan, as Ruslana described, in politics during our elections, and as volunteers during the war and dealing with our refugees and our internally displaced people. Women have taken on many new roles and have become political actors in our country. In the Maidan, Ukrainian women manned the barricades. They brought in the bricks that we fought with. They brought in the food and the medicines. They served as doctors. They served as organizers. Just a few examples. There was a 90-year-old woman who came in 70 kilometers every day on crutches just to stand there and say she had to be with the young people of our country. There was a doctor that worked in my foundation. She was under shooting every day trying to save some of the boys. There was a young nurse from Lviv who actually during the height of the shooting was pulling wounded soldiers out and kept going back for them. There was a 22-year-old girl who after 100 people were killed helped their family organize the funerals, did all the purchasing of the clothes and the coffins. A 22-year-old girl. Ruslana was the voice of our revolution. She was there. I was there in the middle of the night. She was the one calling people to stay, to come out. She was calling against the violence that we knew would start to happen. After the Maidan, we had new political elections, very unexpected. We had many new women coming to power. The head of our national bank is now a woman. The head of our Ministry of Finance is now a woman. The Deputy Minister of the Interior, meaning our police, is now a woman. In the parliament, we have many new civil activists, people who came out of the volunteer sector who came to parliament. The commissioner appointed by the president for the peaceful settlement of the situation in the eastern part of our country is a woman. Unfortunately, it's only 12% of the parliament. I think that that's a shame, but I think that we can see quality over the quantity beginning to happen. In the war, where we now have thousands of Russian soldiers and tanks and arms in our country, we have seen women taking a very strong role of raising money, putting in auctions, being very creative in ways to collect clothes, medicine. It is a civilian war in our country. The government is not paying for a great deal of what is happening there. It's women collecting food, medicines, warm clothes, sleeping bags, raising money for the night vision goggles, even raising money for armaments. We have had many women who have actually joined the fight. Over 150 women have actually participated in fighting, some because they've joined their husbands. One example where the husband died and the woman went to war, his wife went to war instead of him. And so women are taking a huge role. Of course, as in every war, women are the ones who are suffering the most, not only losing their husbands, fathers, and their sons, but having to deal with the destruction of our economy, the great inflation caused. So far, we have lost over 6,000 people in our war. 15,000 have been injured. 70 children have been killed, 180 injured. And of course, because of the war, so many people of Crimean Tatars that have suffered. The top political prisoner about whom we know, Nadia Savchenko, is a woman. She's a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, and she is being held illegally in Russia. And that's a picture of her right there. We have 2.5 million people who are hostages in our occupied territories, and we have asked the United Nations to create a special commission to study the sexual exploitation and violence toward women in that part of the world, in that part of our country. We have seen women taking part in every aspect of it, including repairing the tanks, repairing the cars. It has been the women. And I just want to highlight that after the so-called Minsk ceasefire, when somebody yesterday called it a cold peace, unfortunately I have to say it's not a cold peace, it's a hot war. We've had 2,400 shellings of our towns since the so-called ceasefire, over 100 people killed and 500 people injured, and entire towns that have been destroyed. I think my time is almost up, so I will just very quickly say that we have 1.2 million people that have been displaced, of which 2/3 are women and children, and 5 million people in need of assistance. What I would like to highlight a little bit later is, however, the role of volunteers and civic society and the role women have played in this in our country, because it has been inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.